Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5 a.m. Club. It's Tuesday morning, it's summertime in Sydney, but as you can see, it's overcast and a little bit on the cooler side. It's been like this for most of December to this point. It's the 20th of December today, and it's been rather cool, rather windy, and I guess unseasonable for summer, at least in Australia. But I'm sure better days are ahead, and we can just focus and accept one day at a time, make the most of it. We've got a cruise ship heading in. I'm not sure whether or not it's going to dock up here at the International Passenger Terminal or travel under the harbour bridge and go across to Balmain. But I guess in the next 15 to 20 minutes we will find out what's going on, and it will serve as a backdrop to this vlog that we're going to step through today as I go on my walk and talk. The book that I'm going to talk about today, the book summary that I'm going to deliver, is a precursor to the book summary I delivered a couple of days ago. The book summary that I did a couple of days ago was entitled The Greatest Secret by an author named Rhonda Byrne, and it was the sequel to the first book that she wrote. And this book summary that I'm going to do today is that first book, which is simply called The Secret by the same author, Rhonda Byrne. And it's a book that focuses on the law of attraction, which isn't a new concept, but is a concept that has been repackaged and remarketed just to make it fresh and to entice people into thinking more about their lives, thinking about what they think about, and basically trying to get the most out of what they've got. And as I say, it's not a new concept. You know, the concept goes back to our biblical times in our scriptures, and is basically, you know, seek and you shall find, knock and you will be answered, and look and you will see. So it's all about the concept of you are what you focus on. As Bill Maywis, a friend of mine, said many years ago, he says, James, all we are is what we focus on. So this book talks about how the mind works, how the brain works, how we process things, and how we manifest our present, how we manifest our future, not because of magic, not because of any, you know, special spiritual sort of endeavor, but it's the way our reticular activating system in our brain works. We have a thing in our brain which has been named the reticular activating system, and the reticular activating system is basically a filter that filters all of the senses, all of the stimuli that come into our life from all of our senses, because our subconscious basically takes in everything that happens around us: sight, sound, smell, touch, and all of our five senses work together to create our reality, our slither of reality. And this filter is necessary because if our conscious mind were to be able to see, feel, smell all of the things that our subconscious does, we would go absolutely crazy. So in God's caring love, He created a thing called a reticular activating system that would filter out most of the stimuli, even though they're getting taken in by our subconscious. He allows us to focus on certain elements that we choose. So we all have freedom of choice to think about the things we want to think about and do the things we want to do. But this reticular activating system allows those stimuli, allows our senses to bubble those things to the surface, to enable us to think, to see, to feel, to smell the things that we want to, or the things that we've decided on, or the things that our freedom of choice have enabled us to focus on. So this book expands upon that concept, and we'll see where it leads us. It's just starting to sprinkle, so I'm not sure how long I'll have before I get drenched, but it looks like there is some rain coming in with that ship, that cruise liner, that cruise ship out there, and we'll see how we go. Anyway, this author kicks off the book summary by suggesting that 99% of who we are is in fact invisible and untouchable. And what we're actually doing in our lives is we're turning our fantasies into our reality. And our fantasy is the things that we think about, the things that we believe. And I remember reading a book many years ago by an awesome author who has since passed away, and the book was entitled Believe and You Will See. You know how a lot of people say that seeing is believing? It's actually the opposite of that. If you believe something, what will happen is your reticular activating system, via the confirmation biases in our lives, will scour the universe searching for evidence to prove our belief right. So whatever your belief is, that will manifest in your life in various ways. So it's important to understand that this book, The Secret, talks about this capability that each and every one of us have, each person has, but all it is our ability to focus on things and for our reticular activating system to bubble up to the surface any evidence that we can come across. And we all know that in our world, in our lives, we are habitual in nature, and we are variable. Everything in our life is variable, and sooner or later, if you're looking for a scrape of evidence to prove a particular point, then lo and behold, that evidence will appear sooner or later, and you're able to tick the box to say, aha, there you go, I was right, my belief was right. But what this author says is that you need to have the right beliefs. You need to have your filter looking for the right elements from the very beginning, because whatever you set your filter to will create, will manifest your future, will manifest your reality. So as we're saying here, the first formal point to come from this author is where she says that one of the strongest rules of life is the law of attraction. And simply put, the law of attraction states that like attracts like, and opposites repel. An old idea that has been repackaged, as I mentioned before, and what you think and feel determines what you attract in life. And there's a German saying that says that if you yell in the woods, so they echo back. So whatever you're looking for, whatever you think, whatever you're seeking, will eventually materialize, because as we said, there is a lot of variability in our lives, variability in the world, and if you look at it long enough, soon enough, you will see that ship coming into the harbour. If you believe that ships come into Sydney Harbour, then if you stay here long enough, if you look hard enough, then eventually a blue ship will come into the harbour and prove you right. So it's not enough to just dream about things for them to be manifest. We also need to act. So we need a dream and we need action in order to manifest the outcome. So the problem that a lot of people have is they have a lot of dreams, they have a lot of goals, but that enough is not enough. What we need to be able to do is to do the good works, to do the necessary work in order to manifest those outcomes in our lives. And that's one of the key messages from this book, that we need to have goals, we need to have aspirations, we need to look to the future with positive expectancy, but we just can't sit there and do nothing. We need to also do something about it in order to bring it forward, in order to make it happen. So the other thing that the author says here is that and this is really interesting, that the law of attraction only works in positives and not in negatives. So in life, what the author here is encouraging us to do, so the call to action, is to basically live with positive expectancy, and to so rather than run away from things and to have a number of fears that you're trying to avoid, what you need to be doing, using the cricket analogy, is to walk in as the bowler's coming in. As a fielder, I remember learning that you need to start walking towards the batsman so that you're anticipating, what's going to happen when he or she hits the ball, so that you've got a certain level of momentum that will keep you moving in the right direction, and then you can just shift direction, but you need that momentum to start with. Because every path in our lives has a hump along the road. It's important to understand that. Each path that we follow, each dream that we have, has a distraction along the way. And what we need is momentum. So we need to have enough momentum, enough drive to be able to push over that hump. And once you get past that hump, then life gets a lot easier. But the problem with most people is that hump in the road that they face is more than enough to derail them, more than enough to push them back, and they give up on their dream, give up on their hope, give up on their goal, because they faced a little bit of pushback initially. Anything good in our lives is going to have pushback. It's going to have pushback from ourselves internally, from our fears, uncertainty and doubts. It's going to get pushback from our families, our parents, our friends. It's going to get pushback from society. But what we need to do is to understand that each and every person has their own fate in life. Now, my fate is different to yours. Just because my parents, just because my brother, my sister, my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents, my forefathers, just because others couldn't achieve it during their lifetime, doesn't mean that I can't achieve it. If it's my fate, if it's something that God wills for me to do. And just because I couldn't do it previously doesn't mean that I shouldn't try again using a different method. So we're all called upon to continue to strive and continue to do, and to keep those dreams alive. And sooner or later you'll realise, sooner or later you'll realise that either it's meant to be or it's not meant to be. But you just can't have the dream alone. You need to act, and you need to push, and you need to try and activate your dream to manifest it and to make it happen. Just like today, we've got this blue cruise ship coming into the harbour. It's manifesting itself before our very eyes. So too within our lives there are other things that we can also manifest if we believe, if we are patient, and if we act. Acting is one of the key elements in this book. So the author also mentions here that we need to focus on what we want rather than the things you don't want and the things that people try to avoid. Now, we have a thing happening in our world called our internal monologue, where most people focus their time and energy on loss aversion. What can I do to avoid pain, rather than what can I do to gain pleasure. So this internal monologue can either be positive or it can be negative. It's up to you. You're the author of that internal monologue, and we inherit that internal monologue, and we create that internal monologue as well. We inherit it from our parents, from our schools, from our communities, and some cultures have some really powerful monologues that drive them, and I'm very fortunate within my Greek culture to have a number of those powerful monologues. We have some powerful monologues within our religions. We have powerful monologues that we take from our school, from our sports, and other areas of our lives. So it's important to tag those internal monologues with positivity rather than negativity, so that we can make the most of the law of attraction, knowing that the law of attraction only works in things that you want rather than the things that you don't want. So the problem that most of us face is that we are more focused and worried about not losing rather than getting what we want. And sadly, many people play subconsciously not to lose instead of playing to win. And this in itself will manifest. It will come true. So the call to action is to manage, where possible, your internal monologue, so that you're playing to win rather than playing to not lose. A lot of people play it safe, but what the author here is saying is that playing it safe is probably playing to lose. We all have, as we said, a very, very different future. We've all had a different past. We've all got a different present. I am here, you are somewhere else. But each person needs to work their fate, work their life, to do the things that are God-pleasing, and to know that each of us have a call to action to do the best we possibly can with what we've got, and to make the most of each an opportunity that comes our way. So we need to basically take risks in life. We need to take more risks, is what the author is saying, because those who take more risks, believe it or not, have less competition, because the people that surround us, most people that surround us, are playing not to lose. They're not playing to win. So if you're taking risks, if you're a risk taker, then guess what? You're going to have fewer people to contend with, because there are less people in that space. It's a real powerful concept that most people don't get, and it's based on this pain pleasure principle, that people will do more to avoid pain. People will do more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. But if you take the risks, and if you do participate in that space of winning, then you're going to have fewer competitors. You know, it's I guess it's hard to understand, because you think that you're going to have more competition, but the reality from this author is that you're going to have less competition if you're taking risks and if you're playing to win. So put your hand up for that promotion, is what the author is saying. Don't hold back, and make the most of what you got, because fewer people shoot for great. There is a big bottleneck of people shooting for mediocrity, for being Joe Average or Jane Average. So the last point that comes from this author is how we need to frame things, how we need to frame things in order to win, and to not avoid things is the key message. So what we need to do, according to this author in this wonderful book, The Secret, is we need to ask. We need to ask specifically, we need to have faith, and we need to be a go-getter, and to work like a madman, work like a mad person, knowing that we all have, as I mentioned before, our own fate. And just because it didn't work for others doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work for you. There are times in the past when I was young and I'd be fishing. I remember going to the entrance and seeing hundreds of people fishing in the same place, using similar sort of gear, rods, similar sort of bait, similar sort of lines, similar sort of hooks and sinkers. They basically had the same line and the same water, and yet some people would be catching fish, others would be catching no fish. Some, the fish jumping out of the water here in front of me, some would be catching big fish, others would be catching small fish, and it was all fairly random. And you know, day by day, different outcomes would be happening for different people. There was no consistency, and just because you didn't catch any fish yesterday doesn't necessarily mean that when you go fishing today you're not going to catch the big fish. Now, life is random. There's luck, there's fate, but you just need to be there. You need to be, as the author says, a go-getter, which I guess invites me to also start moving, to get to work, because if I don't start moving now, I won't be the go-getter, I'll be the Mr. Late. So I think that's it. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5 AM Club on this beautiful Tuesday morning, where you were able to join me on this adventure and vicariously enjoy the journey that I was able to digitally capture on my YouTube channel, where we saw that ship coming into the harbour. We've seen this beautiful, unusual sunrise, and we've learnt something new. We've learnt about the law of attraction. We've learnt about the reticular activating system. We've learnt that we need to frame our beliefs, our hopes, our dreams in a positive way, because we will be rewarded for the things that we seek, that the doors that we knock on, and the things we open up our eyes to. And we all are called to glory, to action, and to live the best possible life we can, and to achieve the things that are destined for us to achieve, and to understand that the purpose in life is to serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, to glorify God, and to serve each other, to serve our neighbours, and to love one another as we love ourselves. And there's an important lesson there, that we need to love ourselves first, because you can't love others if you don't first love yourself. So wishing everybody a happy Tuesday. Take care, and we'll chat again, where I'll be able to come to you from a different place with a different message of empowerment, where we can live, learn and pass it on, and hopefully incorporate some lessons, some life hacks that will improve our life, but also improve the life of those around us. Yasas, take care, and bye for now.